What's up, you guys? Matt Jablonski here with the Point of Change. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff that will seem to contradict everything that I'm saying. Okay, I'm going to just continuously contradict myself throughout this entire video. We're going to wrestle back and forth with some different thoughts and some different stuff and some different ideas. We're going to talk about it from some different perspectives, which always gets a little freaking twisted. You know what I mean? When you start exploring ideas and you're thinking about it from this kind of perspective, and then you look at it from this way and you start looking at it from different angles, you kind of start to contradict yourself in ways. But we're going to get into some different subjects that really do exactly that. They contradict each other. But we're going to explore it the best we can. It might get a little convoluted and a little confusing at times, but just keep an open mind and let's just ramble on some things. If you have any thoughts on any of the things we're talking about today, definitely throw them up in the comments. I would love to hear them. We're going to talk a little bit about cannabis use and recovery. We're going to talk about the connection between OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder and addiction. We're going to talk about judgment towards others' pathways of recovery. And we're going to talk about co-signing bullshit. We're going to talk about all that stuff. And all that stuff kind of argues against each other. So it's going to get a little confusing. Morning, Jessica. Morning, Tina. What's up, guys? Throw some hearts up on this video as you come in. Make sure you like, love, share, comment, all that stuff. It's good for you and it's good for me. It helps the Point of Change. It helps the message continue to spread. It brings new viewers in. It helps everybody. So just make sure you hit all those cool buttons down there and let me know where you're watching from or give me a recovery date in the comments if you don't mind. Tina, good morning. Jessica, good morning. Brian Woodland is here. Good morning, brother. How you doing? Can you guys hear me, see me? Everything going good out there in your world? I hope so. I don't mean to be like, hey guys, please hit the, I don't want to be all like, you know, please hit all the buttons, please. Like a little, you know what I mean? Like sad boy in you. Like, please hit the buttons. But please hit the buttons, okay? So many times we have like 40 viewers here at the Point of Change and then the video gets done and there's only 20 reactions and I go, why the hell did nobody hit no buttons? Do people not like me? Are you not proud that you watched the Point of Change? You don't want other people to see that you reacted to my video? What is it? What am I doing wrong? That's the little sad boy in my brain. Donna, morning, Maddie and my recovery fam. How y'all doing and feeling? I'm doing great, Donna. I'm having a beautiful morning. There was 8 squirrels outside the window having a freaking racing match around this tree out here, and it was freaking hilarious to watch. So that was awesome. Sitting down there just watching the squirrels. Boy, I feel old though sometimes when I do that kind of stuff. When I just sit down there and watch my bird feeder or I watch the squirrels play in the trees, I'm like, oh my goodness. I am turning into my father. It's happening right now. Joseph, good morning. Donna, woohoo, woohoo. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. It really is. Yesterday was an excellent day at church. We had like a little meet and greet after church where we all got together and had lunch afterwards and went around the room and talked about, you know, introduced ourselves and stuff. It was a really nice opportunity to get to know some people around the church and to share a little bit of my story. Told everybody that I'm coming up on like that. So that was a good way to spread a little hope. A couple people stopped me and mentioned, you know, hey, congratulations. I had a family member who struggled with addiction. So it's good to share your story with people because a lot of people out there, you have no idea who's all been affected by addiction. You know, like so many people are affected by addiction and overdose. And when you share your story of recovery, even some people have lost a loved one to an overdose, they really love hearing stories of victory over addiction, right? They need to hear that because for them, it's, you know, it gives them a good feeling that there are people that make it out, you know? Lynette, good morning. Brian Woodland. If any of you were friends of my old Facebook, please block it and send me a new friend request to this one. Right on, Brian. Right on. You know, yesterday when that was all happening and you were letting me know to, you know, hey, kick the other one out of your groups. I'm the new Brian. Like, I was so leery that you were actually the hacker and that and that you were telling me to kick the real Brian out so that, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, What if this is the wrong guy? What if I just kicked the real Brian out because the fake Brian just told me not to trust the real Brian? You know what I mean? I was on edge, bro. I was fact checking everything you said. Angie, I'm finally starting to feel better today. COVID put me down for 10 days. Holy crap, that sucks, Angie. I was sick for about 10 days as well. Morning, guys. Give me some likes. Give me some loves. Give me a share out in any addiction groups you may be a part of. Josh, what does this say up here? Good morning. My signal sucks. I will definitely catch the replay if I lose you, brother. Sounds like good topics today. Amen, brother. Amen. It's going to be some good stuff because Chase Savage is here. No, he's not. It's his mom. Rose is here. She's using Chase's profile right now because Chase is, he's one of our brothers in recovery, and Chase found himself back in that old hoose cow. He's locked up in the Crowbar Hotel. So send some prayers up for Chase that he can do some good works in there. Because every once in a while, just because you're in recovery doesn't mean life is perfect, right? Sometimes things, old stuff comes up or whatever else, and we find ourselves thrown back in that jail. But Chase is one of those amazing guys who has like the light of God just flows through that dude. And he's so welcoming and so warm and so awesome, and he's funny. And I have no doubt that over the period of time that he's in that jail cell, they are going to see so many people leaving that jail and turning their lives around. It's going to be ridiculous. They're going to be like, holy crap, what is going on right now? We had like 20 people leave this jail and go straight to church or go straight to NA meetings, and they're doing good now. What just happened? I swear, when somebody in recovery or somebody who's accepted the Lord goes into jail, even though it sucks, it really sucks. I can't beat around the bush on that one. It hurts your heart. It hurts your heart to see it happen. And as the person who's in recovery and going to jail, because I've been that guy, it really sucks. It feels like you just took a huge step backwards in your recovery, because a lot of us come into recovery. We were in jail so often in our addiction. So you come into recovery and you're like, I never want to be in that jail cell again. And that's kind of one of the promises of recovery. If you stay in recovery, you won't go to jail again. You know what I mean? And then you find yourself back in that jail cell. It's like, what the hell? It can kind of give you that feeling of what was this all for? Here I am back in the freaking jail cell, blah, 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 blah. So, but I know Chase, I know he'll keep his head on the right, he'll keep his head. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he'll keep it there. He's not going to lose his head over this. I'm sure it's going to be something that strengthened him in the end. You know what I mean? Let's see. Scrolling down. Lisa, let's talk about marijuana use. Let's talk about marijuana being a gateway drug for me. When I was 18, I sold my sister's fur coat for weed. I only did that once. I was a crackhead after for many years. A few times I sold myself. Definitely rock bottom smoking crack. But I have been smoking pot this whole time. So is pot a gateway drug, or is it a red flag for addiction? Because now I pay for my weed. Even after I sold my sister's coat, I pay for my own weed. I was trying to keep this short and sweet, so well, the comment cut off there. I don't know if, let me see if I can find, I don't know if you wrote more or if you just stopped there, but I love what you were saying there, because I am a firm believer. Okay, I am pro-cannabis. All right, I am a pro-cannabis recovery speaker. Sometimes I feel a little alone on that one. I haven't found too many other people who are so open and talk about marijuana use and recovery and who are pro about it. I hear a lot of people saying that, it's going to fail and blah, blah, blah. And most of the recovery speakers out there are doing it the NAAA 100% sober kind of way. So it's few and far between where you find people like here at the Point of Change, where we openly discuss not being 100% sober in your recovery and using maintenance drugs of any sort, and especially of you speaking of cannabis. So I'm glad to be a voice in that darkness, because honestly, whatever way you look at it, everybody deserves support. Everybody deserves support. And I get really, really sick and tired of people judging other people's pathways of recovery and being like, hey, well, that doesn't make sense. And that's not how I did it. So therefore, that's not going to work for you either. And it drives me a little nuts. If anything, people who use cannabis in recovery should be getting more support, because honestly, there's a lot of things you need to be aware of. There is some risks that are involved when you're using cannabis in your recovery, and you need to know about those risks, and you need to have somebody there to watch your back and to help you with your dosage, to help you with your scheduling, to help you with your reasons for why you're doing it, to help you so that you don't start, lying to yourself, so that you don't start lying to other people, so that your use doesn't go, insane on you. We need to have good support systems for this kind of stuff. Everybody deserves a good support system. So I think it's a beautiful thing that we talk about here on The Point of Change. And thank you, Lisa, for bringing up the idea of the gateway drug, because I have said for a long time, I actually do believe it is the gateway drug. But I believe that gateways go both ways, right? And the reason I will explain that, because I don't think that smoking weed is going to make you want to do other drugs necessarily. I'm not saying that that never happens, but for the most part, most people would say that they don't want to do other drugs because they smoked weed. But where it does, it brings in a level of crossover factor, because people who smoke weed or people who do other drugs, they also smoke weed, So if you don't do any other drug, all you do is smoke weed. And this guy over here, he does every drug on the planet. You know what I mean? You both smoke weed. So in a way, weed becomes the gateway between those two worlds. And this guy who only smokes weed could end up in this dude's world who does all of these different drugs, just because they both smoke weed, and they just happen to run into each other. And then this guy's going to offer you these other drugs because he does those, and he's going to try to upsell you and all that stuff. So there is a crossover factor, which I believe legalization will cut down on that factor, because you'll be able to go to a dispensary. You won't have to go to Joe Schmo, the crack dealer, in order to get a bag of weed. So therefore, you can just go to a dispensary. You're not going to get offered other stuff. They'll know about dosing. They'll know about a schedule. They'll know what the cannabis that you're buying, what it can do for you. I believe the future for cannabis is very promising, right? Also with that, I do want to talk a little bit about this, because this is very connected, honestly. OCD and addiction, and how those two things are related. Because you'll have to watch yourself, especially if you are using cannabis in your recovery. You need to watch yourself for addictive personality traits, for things that are worsening. If you're starting to think like an addict again, you really need to make sure you're minding yourself on how you use cannabis and what's going on in your head, and monitoring all that, because there's a lot of rituals that start happening with cannabis use, right? There's a lot of going through, especially nowadays with dabs. That's the one I really want to talk about, but then also I'm going to contradict myself as I talk about this, okay? So get ready for me to contradict myself. Dabs is the newer form of using cannabis. It is a concentrated wax that is extracted from cannabis, and it's a concentrated THC wax compound, correct? And in order to use wax, there is this whole process of having a rig, and you have to have a torch, and you have to heat up the glass to a certain temperature, and then you have to have this nail, and you take a spoonful of the wax and you put it into the hot glass, and it vaporizes it, becomes smoke, and then you inhale it from there. I am very leery about that. Okay. And as I say this, I don't want to judge anybody else's path. If this is something that you do, I don't want you to feel like I'm judging you, but maybe just I maybe want you to feel a little convicted on it, to maybe mind your P's and Q's on how you do it and stuff like that. I don't want to, if that's what can I say? I'm not here to regulate your dosage levels. Your dosage levels are on you to regulate, correct? Like everybody's, and that's between you and your pathway of recovery to develop your own stuff like that, right? Or even a doctor in some cases, in some states where it's legal for medicinal purposes, you can get, a doctor that'll tell you or give you a little better of an idea of how much you should be using. But when it comes to addiction and rituals, addiction is obsessive or compulsive engagement in a substance or activity despite negative consequences. Now, notice those first two words. It's an obsessive or compulsive use of a substance or activity. Obsessive or compulsive. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. Now with OCD, you have rituals, correct? You guys have probably seen the Dateline, episodes where they talk about OCD, and somebody sneezes and you have to smack yourself in the head, or somebody, when you hiccup, you have to snap your fingers, or when you unlock the door, you have to flip the thing 3 or 4 times. OCD revolves around these little rituals that you do during certain situations. That's a big part of developing OCD and having OCD. In addiction, we see that same trait, but we see it with drugs. The rituals that people take part in before getting high. For instance, how you cut up your lines back if you were, if you were snorting drugs. Even the process of, and this is where I'm getting at with the process of using these dabs. It's very scientific. It almost, in my eyes, which in a second, we're going to talk about judgment, and we're going to call myself out on some bullshit here. But in my eyes, when somebody is heating up glass with a torch and then using a specific needle to get some stuff and then putting it in the hot glass, that's a whole process of doing your drugs. And to me, it becomes a ritual and it starts to cross the line of addiction. Okay. But now that I've said that, I'm going to talk about judging other people's pathways and how a big reason why I think that I feel that way is because it's just not the way that I see it. And it's because I'm a recovering meth addict, and a big part of smoking meth is involving torches and heating up glass and stuff like that. So I think I am a little biased when I say that I think the process of using dabs is leaning on, is starting to dabble into the world of addiction. I think that might be coming from a little place of judgment inside of myself there, because of the fact that I'm a recovering meth addict, and that stuff, heating up glass with a torch and stuff like that, is super triggering for me. So therefore, in my eyes, it's like, hey, that's not cool. You shouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? But if I had never done meth before, I don't know if I would feel the same way about people using dabs. I might be like, hey, that's perfectly okay. It's just a more concentrated version, and it's just a way to get a high dose in an instant second, But instead, because I am a recovering meth addict, I look at it and I'm like, hey, stop heating up that glass with that torch right now. You stop that. That is not okay. All right. But I think, like, on some levels, even if you're using it medicinally, like if you're using cannabis for like generalized anxiety and stuff, I really think that concentrated waxes out of a bong is way too high of a dosage to be dealing with generalized anxiety. I'm not a doctor, but to me, that seems like you shouldn't need that much. If you got that much anxiety that you need a concentrated form of THC to be melted in a super hot needle on super hot glass to give you this giant concentrated hit of THC, I think you might need to work on some of the stuff in your life that's causing the anxiety that makes you want to smoke that much. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion, and I don't want to be judgmental. Maybe it is coming from a place of judgment just because of my own usage and the way I've seen things. But for me, it also comes down to, I don't want to be that guy that's co-signing your bullshit. All right. That's a huge thing with this whole cannabis use and recovery thing, is a lot of people message me or come to me to try to co-sign their bullshit. And I am not the person that's going to do that for you. If you message me, because if you have a way of doing something and you're having this controversial thought in your head, right? Let's say you're smoking weed in recovery, right? And you're having this thought, is this okay for me to do? Is this not okay for me to do? And you're wrestling with it. I think you really need to get with yourself and get with God and get real with yourself on it before you. Well, I mean, I understand messaging me for my opinion, but here's what I see happening is somebody's using way too much weed in their recovery, right? It's actually a degradation in their life. Their support system or their recovery program, somebody goes to hold them accountable because they see that this person is smoking too much weed, or they're coming in smelling like weed hardcore, or they're, it's becoming a money problem, or they're lying about it, or maybe they're dabbling with other drugs too. Something like that is happening, and these other people who are real close to them see this happening, and they're like, hey man, we need, you really shouldn't be smoking weed. You really need to quit, man. And then they feel persecuted because they're not ready to be held accountable on their bullshit, right? So they're like, how dare you? It's medicine for me. I use this as medicine. It helps me in my recovery. They get all super defensive, and then they run to the internet and they come to find me because they know that I'm a pro-cannabis recovery speaker. So they're like, hey, Maddie, these guys told me I shouldn't smoke weed in recovery. You smoke weed in recovery. And they're looking for me to co-sign their bullshit, right? But I'm going to tell you, maybe you should listen to them. I'm not going to be that guy that co-signs your bullshit, right? Because when people say something, especially the people who are closer to you, they know you better than I do. They got a better view of what's going on in your life than I do. So I can't sit over here in southern Wisconsin and tell you, wherever the hell you are, that, hey man, no, you're perfectly okay for smoking weed in recovery, you know, because I don't know, maybe you are messing up. Maybe you are smoking too much. Like I can be held accountable on my own levels of usage, but I can't be held accountable for what you're doing in your recovery. You have to define your recovery path. That's between you and God and your support system and your recovery program or whatever you got going on. These are all different pieces of your recovery. I'm not going to be the one that tells you, oh, don't listen to them, bro. You do you and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I get doing what works for you. But also, I am not the guy that wants to co-sign your bullshit because I don't know what you're doing well enough to be able to sit up here and say you can. You know, I will maybe tell you some boundaries that I keep on myself in it, but I'm not gonna sit up here and tell you that you're totally okay in what you're doing. I'm not the one to justify it, right? But we do that, and watch yourself for that too. You know, a lot of people are guilty of you want to look into something, and I'm guilty of this too. So don't fricking think that I'm innocent and I'm sitting up here yelling at you. Okay, these are things that I work on in myself. So I'm calling myself out and calling you guys out to watch yourself for that kind of shit. Like if you are legitimately trying to change your perspective on things or look into something, you have to look at it from all different points. You can't just try to find somebody who fits your narrative and then get their opinion. You know, that's just fine. Then you're just searching for somebody to co-sign your bullshit. And I've done it. I've done it in my journey of recovery. I've done it in my journey with God, you know, where I find something that God doesn't like in my life, or I should say God finds something in my life that he doesn't like. And instead of being like, hey, you know, the church is right, instead I'll reach out to somebody that I know is going to co-sign my bullshit and be like, hey, this isn't right. You know what I'm saying? So we got to watch ourselves for that kind of stuff and then realize, you know, if you're doing it, call yourself out on your bullshit. That's where we want to get with this recovery thing. We want to get to a point where you can almost sponsor yourself because you got this recovery stuff so ingrained in your brain that you get these two voices going on. One that's telling you to do naughty stuff and the other voice that's telling you to stop doing the naughty stuff. And then we got to teach you which voice to listen to. You know what I'm saying? And that second voice is the Holy Spirit, but that's a whole religious thing that we're not going to worry about or go into today. All right, I'm coming back down. Sorry, guys. Let's see, Jessica, cannabis was the first drug I ever tried other than alcohol. It was also the gateway drug to some of the other drugs I've done. I smoked crack for the first time at my weed dealer's house while trying to buy weed. Thank you so much for emphasizing my point and for this first part here. Cannabis was the first drug I ever tried. That's where another reason why I say, even though I am pro cannabis, but I still say yes, it is the gateway drug because when you smoke weed, oftentimes, you know, drinking a beer or smoking a cigarette is ultimately the initial gateway. You know what I'm saying? That's the like initial time that you're putting a substance into your body in order to achieve a different mindset. Like when you drink alcohol with some friends or something like that. Normally, but we don't even count that one because those are still in the legal parameters, right? Those are still in the legal bracket. So that doesn't get counted. I think the reason it counts as, you know, cannabis is the gateway drug because it's the first one that most people try that's outside of the realm of legality. It's illegal. So now that becomes the gateway is what they're saying. Personally, I think the reason they should call, or the reason that it should be called the gateway drug is because, for one, it's the gateway factor. Like Jessica just said, by smoking weed, you will end up hanging out with people who do every drug on the planet. This is the weed. This is his weed. This is his meth, his heroin, his cocaine, his pills. All these are the other drugs he does, right? But you both smoke weed. So you end up hanging out with guys like this, and then you can end up slowly turning into him. But I also believe that we can take that same gateway, we can take this same guy and send him back through the gateway and take away the other drugs and get him back to living closer to a better life, because gates go both ways. You know what I'm saying? But another factor in that gateway thing is a lot of times cannabis is the first like mind-altering substance that people use. Like alcohol is a slow mind-altering, right? Like you have a couple beers and then you get that weird floaty feeling. Cannabis is like you take a couple hits and you know you just did something. You know what I'm saying? And it kills the fear. It really does. For me, anyways, it really did. It was like one of the first drugs I did. I was scared of it before I smoked it. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. That's illegal drugs there. And then the first time I smoked weed, I was like, oh, well, this isn't so bad. And then when I was offered another drug, I remember my first thought when I was offered another drug was, well, I've smoked weed before, so this can't be that bad. You know what I'm saying? It brings you up a rung on the level on the ladder of crazy shit you've done in your life, right? Like we all have this ladder of crazy shit that we found acceptable. And in addiction, we really started to climb that ladder. But in the beginning, like you're down on ground level. Like you've never done really anything really crazy, and you're kind of scared to climb up to that first rung on that ladder of crazy bullshit, right? You're like, ooh, stay away from the ladder. Don't start climbing the ladder. But then once all of a sudden you find something that you do, you're like, hey, that's not so crazy. It's only the first rung of the ladder. I can step up on the first rung of the ladder. And then you step up there. Well, then the next rung up doesn't seem so bad. Then it's like, well, hey, I'm already on the first step of it. Might as well go up to the second step on this ladder, right? If I take somebody who's never done a drug in their life and I say, hey man, you want to shoot up heroin? They're going to be like, whoa, no, man, no, that's insane. What are you talking about? But you get them a couple levels up on that ladder first. You get them to smoke some weed first. You get them to, smoke this or smoke that or do some pills or a few other crazy things first. Then heroin's not that far out. All of a sudden, well, you've smoked weed and you've done this and you've taken some pills and, oh, we're not shooting heroin. We're just going to smoke some heroin. Oh, well, that doesn't sound so bad. I didn't even know you could smoke heroin. I'll totally smoke heroin. So now you've smoked heroin. And that next step ain't that far away. All of a sudden, it's not the fifth rung up on the ladder. It's just one more step up. It's that level of crazy shit that we do in our life when we escalate that. A lot of people, when you talk about hardcore addiction, like being a meth addict or being a heroin addict, non-addicts look at us and they're like, how could you do meth? That's crazy. Well, yeah, for you it was crazy, but for me, I was already stealing shit. I was already lying to my friends and family. I was already doing all these other terrible things. So for me, meth and heroin was right up in the alley of stuff I was doing already. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's just a one, here we are, we're doing meth and heroin. Some people did straight up jump into the hardcore end like that. For me, it was more of a slow burn, slowly stepping into the world of addiction. But you also need to remember, especially when we talk about cannabis use in recovery, because a lot of people are like, hey, recovery means 100% sober. And for some people, recovery means 100% sober. If people ever ask me, hey, Maddie, will cannabis work in my recovery? Will cannabis help me in my recovery? I can't answer that question for you. I really can't. That's on you and God and on your recovery program. And there's a lot of factors that come into say, like, can a person use cannabis in their recovery? That's a big question. I tell you to just keep working what's working for you. Whatever's working, just keep working it for you. I can tell you that in my experience, for me, it helps me. That's all I can tell you, though. I can't tell you if it's going to help you or if it's going to make you worse. You know what I'm saying? It's a very individual process because you are putting a minor mood-altering substance into your body, and in recovery, that's kind of getting some dangerous territory. And I don't want to see anybody else slip up. I don't want to see you slip up. Just because it helps me doesn't mean it's going to be good for you. You know what I'm saying? It's like if somebody were addicted to any kind of, medication, or not addicted to, but if anybody were prescribed to any kind of a medication for their mental health, you know what I mean? Like, let's say you're prescribed to Klonopin for something going on, for your mental illness, right? Can you just give a Klonopin to somebody else because they said, well, I think I have that, and I think that'll help me in my recovery. No, you can't just give that Klonopin to somebody else just because that's between them and their doctor and their recovery program and everything else, So why do we look at cannabis any differently? Why do we look at cannabis and be like, oh, I don't know, yeah, everybody can smoke it. You know what I mean? No, that's between you and God and your recovery program and your doctor. And there are so many factors to take into account on this, If it's working for you, awesome. That's great. And I'm proud of you. Keep doing what's working for you. If it's not, good. I'm awesome. That's awesome too. Keep working that, So asking me if using cannabis in your recovery can work for you is just like asking me if 100% sobriety can work for you. I don't know. Some people make 100% sobriety work. Some people don't. Some people go 100% sober, only make it a couple months, go insane, and go do all the drugs in the world and end up overdosing and dying. So I can't tell you what's going to work for you. 100% sober doesn't work for everybody either. They like to say that it does, and blah, 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 blah. That's a whole nother video right there. 100% sober is actually more of a rare thing to find in recovery. It really is. I know when you're in recovery groups and you're in recovery and that's all you talk to is people in recovery who are 100% sober and in the program, when those are the only people you talk to, you kind of get tunnel vision and you feel like that's the only way that works, and you feel like it's very common. You feel like, hey, everybody I know is making that work, so it must work for everybody. But it's actually you and your friends who are 100% sober and going to those meetings. You guys are super freaking awesome. You're super unique. You're really freaking rare, dude. You are really freaking rare. I mean, I know you see yourself and everybody else around you doing it 100% sober, and you start to feel like it's a common thing. It's really not. It's really freaking rare, and you're doing an amazing job. And please keep it up. Please don't let anybody down talk your recovery. That's the crazy thing is there's plenty of naysayers to every different form of recovery. There's plenty of naysayers. Even people who, if you use cannabis in your recovery, people are going to down talk you. If you still drink alcohol in your recovery, people are going to down talk you. If you use Suboxone or methadone, people are going to down talk you. Even if you do it the mainstream way, NA or AA, people are going to down talk you. There's going to be people who are going to say that that's a cult and that they're brainwashing you and that you're just becoming addicted to your recovery now. They're not teaching you how to be a leader. They're teaching you how to be a follower, and you're just going to be addicted to those meetings now. And no matter which way you go in this recovery world, you're going to have your naysayers. There's somebody that doesn't like what you do in recovery. It's just kind of like par for the course. You got to get used to the haters. You got to learn to want to prove those people wrong. You got to use that freaking hate as ammo, bro. When I found what worked for me in recovery, yeah, I had plenty of people who were like, you can't smoke weed in recovery. That's not real recovery. You're not 100% sober. You're not in the rooms. You're not doing it correctly. I get that on the regular. Not so much anymore, but in the beginning especially. I think it was mainly because I hadn't proven myself yet. Now I'm coming up on 5 years of recovery. So now I get a lot more people that are like, hey, dude, it's doing something, because hell, there's plenty of people who don't make it to 5 years of recovery when they're 100% sober. Plenty of people that go back out, So here I am using cannabis, and here I am coming up on 5 years. Now it makes them raise an eyebrow. Now they're like, hey, all right, okay, all right. You know what I mean? When I was 1 year sober, 2 years sober, it's still kind of questionable. It's still we'll see how long that lasts. But once you start now I'm in the grounds of what they consider long-term recovery. So now it's like, wow, you stay away from meth for 5 years and you're using cannabis the whole time. Now it raises an eyebrow. Now it's interesting. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, in the beginning, and I agree with what was said before about how cannabis should definitely be a red flag in someone's recovery. I'm not saying that, hey, if somebody's using cannabis in their recovery, you let them go, man. You leave them alone. Still needs to be accountability. If there's no accountability, then recovery has a really hard time of growing. Recovery does not blossom when there's zero accountability. So being held accountable really sucks sometimes, especially because we want to do the things we want to do, and then you got somebody telling you that they don't like what you're doing, and then you got to change something that you do because somebody else doesn't like it. Or that's the way it feels in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? When somebody calls you out on some bullshit and they're like, hey man, you need to change this about yourself, it can feel like, hey, screw you, you judgmental prick. Like, this is me. You leave my freaking recovery alone. But we really need to step back out of ourselves and say, okay, why is he saying that? What, is there a reason for what he's saying? Is there a lesson here? Is there value in what this guy just told me? Because sometimes your defensive nature and you're thinking that you're doing it the right way, sometimes you're not. Sometimes we're not. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong. You've just been doing something a certain way your whole life and never even realized that you were twisting it. You know what I'm saying? It's we learned about this in church a couple weeks ago. They had this whole lesson on what's called Havan, which Havan is a well, there's more of a in the actual word as Havan, but but Havan is this is a word for sin that was originally an original word in the Bible for sin that was translated and just turned into the word sin. But actually there was like 70 words. I can't remember if he said 70 or 700 different words that were translated into just sin. There's many different words for sin, and one of them is Havan. And what Havan means is it's something that we've done for so long in our lives that we don't even realize that it's not good. It's not a good thing. But like, for instance, here, this is the greatest. The pastor explained it like this, and it was awesome. If you ever play with a paper clip, you ever just sit with a paper clip and you start twisting around and you start bending it and fiddling with it and playing with it, and before you know it, it doesn't look anything like a paper clip anymore. And it doesn't do its purpose anymore. And in fact, even if you realize, oh no, I've been twisting this thing and now I need it, and you try to bend it back into shape, you can never really get it back into the shape that it was originally intended. And it never really works like it's supposed to after that. That's Havan. That's the sins in our life that we've just done for so long that we don't even realize it's a sin. It's something that God never intended to be this way, but we just have done it for our whole life, and we never even really considered that it was a sin, And once you figure it out, there's a whole process to straightening that paperclip back out, and to turning yourself back over to God and straightening those things out. And I think a lot of times we have things in our lives that we need to be held accountable on. We have things in our lives that we need to change that we don't even realize it. And it's important to keep an open mind. It's important to walk through this recovery world, not with an attitude of I'm right and, my way or the highway, but we need to come in with an open mind. You need to be ready to accept that some of the things that you're doing might not be right. And sometimes it's going to be some of the stuff that you really enjoy, some of the stuff that you really like, some of the stuff that you really feel is helping you. But you have to, all of a sudden you start to learn stuff about that thing you do, and you can't just ignore it. You can, if you want to, you can. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. Some of us, you learn facts about the things you're doing and you just say, I'm not going to do that, whatever, screw that. And, that's up to you. That's your journey. But for me, it's when I find something in my life that has, some questionable areas of it, I understand that and I need to focus on it. And when it's that I'm not always right. That, I've lived a pretty screwed up life. I was a meth addict for 13 years, right? So for me, it's a matter of, I really got to look at stuff with an open mind. When somebody brings up something to my attention that I got going on in my life, and they're like, hey man, what about that thing? It's for me, it's like, I really got to look at it, hey, is it right? Because I don't exactly know what I'm doing here. I've only been living a real, an actual good life for 5 years. That's 5 years out of my 35-year life. Only 5 years of it have I been doing the right thing, really, if I really think about it, and living a good adult life. Only been doing it for 5 years. I really don't know what the hell I'm doing yet. There's still a lot of areas where I could use some guidance and I could use some improvement. And if you can look at people calling you out on stuff as being held accountable, as opposed to looking at it as being judged and being yelled at, and if you can look at it as being held accountable, you're going to open up the opportunity for growth in your life. And when you open up the opportunity for growth, it's unstoppable what you can do with your life, man. It really opens up so many freaking doors for you when you start to learn to accept accountability and start to learn to accept advice from other people who are doing it a little differently than you, whether that be recovery or religion or love or whatever you got going on in your life, or even being a parent, especially a parent in recovery, which I'm not a parent in recovery, but just as advice, as an example, if you're a person in recovery, a lot of times we ourselves were addicts. Our family addiction runs in our family. Parents were addicts. Sometimes we need to accept the idea that we never really had a good example of what a father or a mother was, and we might need some coaching. I know a lot of people get really freaking pissed off when somebody tells them something on how to raise their kids. You know what I mean? And I get it. That's your kid. That's your journey with them. But if somebody, tries to teach you a new way of parenting your kids, some of us need to be more open-minded about that. And I've found situations like that where I'm like, hey man, you shouldn't do that with your kid. And they're like, yeah, you're not even a parent. You don't get to tell me nothing. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't know what parent is either. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Lori, where do you get cannabis? Well, it depends on where you are. It's if you are in a legal state, then you go to a dispensary. Now, even in illegal states, because cannabis is becoming such a regular thing, and it's becoming such a needed thing, they're finding a lot of loopholes. Even in the legal states, they're finding a lot of loopholes for CBD dispensaries are finding, for instance, Delta 9 THC is the THC compound that is found in cannabis flower that, that's the compound that makes you feel high. CBD is the medical side of it, or not, I shouldn't say that, THC has some medical benefits as well, but CBD is like your pain relieving side to cannabis. Delta 9 THC is the normal THC you find in cannabis. I don't know exactly what it means, but they are now selling what is called Delta 8 THC at CBD places because apparently Delta 9 THC is illegal, but Delta 8 THC is not illegal. See, so they're finding little loopholes to be able to sell cannabis within illegal states even. So there are ways to get cannabis and THC wherever you're from that can help. If it comes down to it and it's right for you, there is a way to go about it. But never use alone, no matter what you're using. I always tell people never use alone. And I don't like to single out just people I don't like to say that's just for people in recovery using medication too. If you're an active addict and you're still using heroin or meth, never use alone, man. There are numbers you can call to have somebody on the phone just to talk to them while you're using, so that in case something bad happens, they can get a hold of emergency services and stuff. These services are available all over the place. Look into it, get on Google. Just please do not use alone, because so many people die from that. No matter what you're doing, don't use alone. Always have some kind of a support system with you. Always, whether you're in addiction or whether you're in recovery and using medication or using cannabis or whatever it is, just make sure somebody knows what you're up to and somebody knows where you are, and that you have support system and stuff like that, man. Let's see, Jessica, I'm a parent in recovery. I was in recovery before I became a parent, but it's still rough. It truly does take a village. Amen, Jessica. Amen. Michael, I get mine from a dispensary ran by the government and also allowed to grow up to 4 plants per household, fully legal here in Canada. Right on, brother. I will be there in a minute. I'm on my way. Heidi, I need the good stuff from the dispensary. Looking forward to it becoming legal here in Florida. I have a pain management doctor. Right on, Heidi. That's beautiful. That's so much better than using prescription medication. Lori, I was hooked on prednisone. It helped me with my asthma. Now I can't get it anymore. I was shaky for a long time. It was horrible. That's the alternate. That's the opposite side of this coin, is that when we use something to medicate ourselves, especially a maintenance drug, because the actual definition of a maintenance drug is just something that you're going to be on long term. It's something that's going to maintain either for us in recovery, most of us, we're talking about maintaining sobriety is what we're talking about with a maintenance drug. But maintenance drug can be anything that you are going to be prescribed for a long period of time to help you maintain some area of either your mental health or your physical health, you know. And when you are prescribed a drug for a long period of time, the body's natural thing to do is to become either dependent or addicted to that substance. Because if it's a chemical that you're putting into your body that your body is lacking in, over time, your body is going to stop producing that chemical altogether because it's getting it from the thing you're putting in, either that medication or a drug. For instance, alcoholism. GABA is a huge, is a neuroprocessor that goes in your brain, and it's when you drink alcohol, you increase the flow of GABA. You're putting GABA into your body, and your brain eventually stops producing GABA because it knows that you're going to be putting GABA in with the alcohol. And that's where a lot of the really, really shitty feeling, like the hungover, feel like crap, a lot of that is attributed to the GABA because you're not producing GABA on your own. Or I shouldn't say the hungover. I should say like those long-term feelings of alcoholism. Anybody that struggled with alcoholism, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Jessica, I'm in Ohio. Medical is legal, but not recreational. I still buy off the streets because I don't have a doctor that agrees with medical marijuana. I only buy cannabis from certain people that I trust. I can't be too careful nowadays. Amen, Jessica. You do what works best for you, and however, I am a firm believer that it's a hard thing to talk about online, honestly, because I can't sit up here and say, hey, go out there and break the law. But honestly, if a law is unjust, if a law needs to be broken, how are we going to get that law changed unless we break that law? You know what I'm saying? There was a time in this country when frickin' being a free black man was illegal, or being a woman and voting was illegal, So, I mean, just because something is a law doesn't mean that it's a moral thing. You know what I mean? It can still be, hey, this thing is illegal, but it's actually a good thing, So I'm a firm believer that the government doesn't always tell us what's best, I know it's a crazy thought, right? Lori, Matt, you still take canvas? I can't spell. Cannabis. Yes, I do, Lori. Yes, I do. That has helped me through my entire recovery and still helps me with my mental health. Heidi, I messed up and smoked meth for 2 weeks. My 7/24/17 clean date is gone. Today I'm clean 2 weeks and 1 day. Hey, congratulations right where you are, Heidi. That's freaking beautiful. I know you don't even worry about the shame or the guilt of, screwing up. Hey, whatever. I'm freaking happy that you're back in recovery. I really am. That's freaking awesome. So happy to hear that you came back in, because a lot of people don't get the opportunity, for one, let's just call a spade a spade. A lot of people don't freaking come back from a relapse. They die. So you are very, very freaking lucky that you, that you're here, and you're blessed. You're blessed, more than just lucky. You are so blessed to be here. And I'm so thankful that you're still here. So thanks for coming back into recovery, and thanks for being here at the Point of Change. And thanks for sharing that with us. So guys, throw some hearts up for Heidi hitting that 2-week mark. Keep going, Heidi. That's freaking awesome. Rose, or Chase Savage, but it's actually Rose, says, Maddie, what size tee do you wear? It's a small. I'm a small guy. Yep. Yeah, that's right. This shirt that's kind of baggy on me, it's a small. That's right. Heidi, thank you. I missed you and my clean family. Oh, well, we're so happy to have you back. Richard Ross, clean 4 years, and Maddie was a huge part of my recovery. Right on, bro. Hell yeah. Clean 4 years. Congratulations, dude. That's freaking awesome. I'm coming up on 5 years in just a few days here. Holy crap. And that time just flies, doesn't it? Doesn't that time fly? Like, I remember coming into recovery, and they told me in the beginning, I did it NA. Ooh, crazy if you didn't know that about me. In the beginning, I was in NA meetings. And NA, even though I didn't stick with the program, was a huge asset to my recovery, dude. Meeting other people and hearing other people's testimonies that they had made it out gave me the realization that I could make it out and that this was possible, you know? What was I just saying? Oh, yeah. But in like the first meeting I went to, the guy chairing the meeting said that it can take up to 2 years to heal the damage that has been done through an active meth addiction or heroin addiction. It can take up to 2 years to heal the damage caused to your body and your brain. And when he said that, this freaking, I can't even explain the feeling in my head, the feeling in my whole body when I heard him say that it was going to take me 2 years to heal the damage. Like just this 2 years. I can't wait 2 freaking years to feel better. You know, this thought hits you and you're just like, what in the hell? Like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to stay away from drugs for 2 freaking years? I can't stay clean for 2 fucking weeks on the outside, you know? I was in jail at that time. But hearing him say that really crushed my soul on a huge level. But I'm so thankful that I stuck with it. And then once I got over that 2-year mark, once I went past that 2-year mark, like now I'm coming up on 5 years. And I look back at that guy and I go, why were you so worried about 2 years? Why were you so freaking worked up about that it was going to take you 2 years? Like now it's like, even once I got to that 2-year mark, it was like, I don't even know why I was worried about this 2-year mark. Like this is nothing compared to the rest of my life because I am going to be in recovery for the rest of my life. What did I originally think? This is what it really brings up in my head is what was my plan back then when I heard that it was going to take 2 years to fix the damage to my body and my brain? Why was I so worried about that 2 years? Was it kind of and in a lot of ways, I think because I'm a self-sabotager, right? And I think that was my brain setting up a relapse plan. Even right there in the beginning, my brain was saying, oh, okay, so if I stay off it for 2 years, I'll be, fixed. And then I can start using again because my brain and my body will be back to normal and I could, see, I think that addiction demon was playing a trick in there. Otherwise, like, why was it such a big deal what was I thinking? Was I going to make it to 2 years and then stop? Like, no, you're not just doing this for 2 years, man. You're doing this for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? So I look back at that guy and I am very thankful because I look back at him and I see those things. I see that I was self-sabotaging. I even remember having the thought, because my dad was in pretty rough shape when I came into recovery, right? And he passed away. Just over a year into my recovery, my dad passed away. So he was in pretty rough shape when I came into recovery. And I remember having a thought one time of when dad passes away, I could go get high again and nobody would blame me. Nobody would be mad at me. They would all understand. I just lost my dad. I could totally go get high. So our brain does that to us. I mean, I know that's kind of a morbid thought and kind of an asshole thing, honestly, to even admit. But like, our brain does that. It sets up these freaking relapse plans on us and we don't even know it's happening. Our addiction is in our brain messing with stuff and we don't even notice it, And I think back to those thoughts. And then the crazy thing is I struggle with depression, anxiety, ADHD, drug addiction. And here I had this relapse plan that, when dad passes away, I could totally go use again and nobody would blame me. It was a thought that I'd had in my head. And then my dad passed away. It happened, right? And sometimes God takes what's meant to destroy you and he turns it for good. And when my dad passed away, by all rights, I should have been laying in a ditch somewhere, or I should have relapsed, or I should have killed myself, or I should have just been laying in a ditch somewhere crying, with everything I had going on. That's what makes sense, is that I would have relapsed and killed myself or something, honestly. But instead, that happened and it drove me, man. It pushed me forward farther. It made me realize that I needed to start sharing my story. It made me realize that I needed to look for more support. It made me start joining support groups on Facebook. It made me start the Point of Change. It made all of these amazing things happen in my life from that moment. My dad passed away and I started to live, bro. my dad's passing was such a blessing in disguise, so to speak. And the way I picture it, it's kind of like the devil can't see God's plan either. That's one weakness the devil has, right? He can't see God's plan. And he freaking ends up falling into so many traps with God that way, because he didn't see that when my dad passed away, I was going to freaking blow up, dude, that I was going to start a page and I was going to start helping other people find recovery and I was going to start leading other people out of addiction. The devil couldn't see that, but God knew that would happen. And here came the devil, like setting this up. You know, it was like I can see him kind of crafting. It's like he's building this weapon to take me out, you know, and he's like, ha ha ha, when your dad dies, that's what's going to happen. Maddie's going to freaking, you know, he's going to go back out. He's going to start using it and he's going to kill himself if his dad dies. So the devil kind of starts setting all this stuff up, building this weapon, crafting a sword to use against me, you know, and then the moment comes where he thinks that sword is finally ready. It has been fashioned and he's going to freaking use it, but the weapon may have been forged, but it will not prosper. He comes at you with that sword and freaking God takes it from him and just chases him right backwards, man. Like, I love seeing that in my brain. And that's exactly what I think happened. Like, here's the devil getting that freaking weapon all forged, and then he gets it ready and he came after me and God grabbed it out of his hand and just, get out of here. and then I took that sword and I just started using it to destroy addiction, you know, and just started coming after it in you guys' lives and helping you guys make another day. And I'm so thankful that I used that moment for good. And that I look back at some of the decisions I've made in my recovery and why I'm still here today. And it blows my mind, because the freaking guy that I was back then, I can't believe he made the decisions he did. I can't believe when I got out of that jail cell in 2017 and found out that my girlfriend was cheating on me and my friends all stole all my stuff and that everything was ruined and that I didn't have a place to stay at my dad's house anymore. I can't believe that guy made the decision to call Ryan and move away in that moment, that he didn't call the dope man. Like, I still look back at that and I'm like, how did I make that decision? It had to have been God leading me. It had to have been, because everything in my life was pointing towards go get high again. And I didn't. I called Ryan and I moved away and I found recovery. And then my dad dies. And instead of going back out and using, which is even what I planned to do, I didn't. So it's like, how did I make those decisions at those points? And I'm so thankful, because those are the decisions that really matter. Those are the ones that really matter when you get to them points where it's like, boom, you have a choice right now. And we have the choice every single day, but sometimes the choice is made really freaking clear in your face, right? I mean, every single day we have the option to go get high and to go get, you know, to go run away from our family, run away from our responsibilities, fluff off our job and go get high. We have that opportunity every single day. But every once in a while, that opportunity comes freaking front street, man. Every once in a while, it's not just a few streets away or just across the town. All of a sudden, it's right in your face. And those are the moments when it freaking really matters that you freaking grab onto this recovery thing, that you remember these videos, that you remember the lessons you learned in your addiction, that you remember how far you've come, that you remember how proud of yourself you are, you remember how proud your family is, you remember the loved ones we've lost who are looking down on you right now and watching every single decision you make, and you think about them and you think about how it would feel to be in heaven and freaking see you using drugs again. You know what I mean? We don't want to grieve the Holy Spirit. We don't want to grieve the dead. We don't want to grieve our loved, like, you know, and I don't mean us feeling grief for them. I mean, when they're on the other side, you don't want their spirit feeling to be grieved by us doing stuff that we're not supposed to be doing over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want my dad to look down and see me down here smoking meth. And he can see me wherever I go now, because I believe that when you die, you become part of God, that you return to the great all oneness that is everything, you know. And when my dad passed away, he became part of God, and now he can see everything that God sees, which means he can see me everywhere. I can't just close the door anymore. When he was alive, when my dad was alive, I could just lock the door and go in my bedroom and smoke meth, and he didn't know what I was doing in there, you know. Now I can't lock the door. I can't go anywhere. Dad can see me every single moment of my life, and I want to make sure that he always knows that I'm keeping this promise, because I promised him on his deathbed that I was good. You know, if you need to go, you can go. I'm good, Dad. I got this. And then he let go and he was gone. And I don't want to turn that into some freaking fuzzy, that's something that I just lied to him and said on his deathbed just to give him warm and fuzzy feelings just so he could leave and then I could go get high again. I I'm not going to allow it to become that, So very thankful that I'm still here for all those things we've done, right? Heidi, I have to get back to work. It was so wonderful being here with all of you. Thank you for the support and love. Enjoy your day, fam. Thank you for being here, Heidi. I appreciate that. Donna, the devil always loses once you live to do right and turn to God. You, my friend Maddie Jablonski, are blessed. Hope you never forget it. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate the reminder. I really do. Richard, Akron, Ohio here. Right on, Richard. Rocking in Ohio. Whitewater, Wisconsin here. Lori, proud of you. This makes me sad and happy. He's now amazing. Now amazing stories. Amen, Lori. Amen. I can appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm glad I can definitely relate to that. It makes you sad and happy. It's something that's super bittersweet. It really is. Like my dad passing away is a terrible thing, honestly. It really sucks. I love my dad more than anything. But it ended up being one of the most positive things in my life. And that's freaking, some people might think that's so weird to say, but like even my addiction, 13 years of meth addiction, how can somebody sit here and say, hey, I'm thankful for my 13 years of meth addiction, but I'm really thankful for it, because without my 13 years of meth addiction, I would not be here right now talking to you. And you guys are freaking amazing. Like, I love you guys so much. And you guys do so much good in your worlds and so much good for your families. And the fact that I get to be a small part of your recovery and help you do the things that you guys are doing by just encouraging you a little bit, like, that stuff blows my mind and like warms my heart at the same time. I'm very thankful to have all you guys around. Brittany, you're such a kind soul, Maddie. God and all of us are so grateful. I'm so grateful for God and for all of you guys, holy crap. You guys freaking, you think I'm up here teaching you, but half the time you guys are out there teaching me. You know how many videos, I make a lot of videos where I come here and I teach you guys stuff, right? But how many times have you guys seen me come on here just distraught, over something that I realized or something that I'm going through or something that happened in my life, and I go live to get those feelings out. And you guys come in here and you let me know I'm not alone, and you share your experience and what I freaking am going through, and you cheer me on every freaking day. The days that I don't freaking love myself, you guys love me so much that there's no way I can stop. You know what I mean? Like, it's between me, you guys, and God. Like, this page keeps freaking going. And there have been so many times, like, if it were my will, this is where I know that God's will is a real thing, right? Is because if it were all my will in this body, I'd have shut this page down a long time ago. The point of change would not be a thing right now if it was only me working here. Thank God that God is working inside of me, because there are so many days where I fight, like, where my will is shut this page down. And I don't know if it's not necessarily my will, it's the devil's will. He gets into our head with those nevers. Devil always works with nevers and nobodies. If those thoughts start coming into your head and they're preceded with never or nobody, like nobody cares about you, you're never gonna do that. The devil likes to work in them freaking absolute negatives. You know what I mean? He likes to work in that, like, nobody cares about me, nobody wants to watch my videos. Even when I make a video and it's seen by like 500 people, and the devil comes into my head and goes, oh, nobody watches your videos. What do you mean nobody watches my videos? That's 500 people. That's more people than live in my hometown. So how dare I sit there and have those thoughts of nobody likes you, nobody watches your videos, you're never gonna achieve anything, you're never gonna get there. The devil loves to work in that stuff, and God works in always. God works in always and forever, and yes and amen. That's how he works, man. He's the guy who always loves me and is always good no matter what. So just keep pushing and don't listen to those negative voices, man. Don't let them get you down. And don't let that freaking stuff come in and ruin you. Be careful how you react to stuff that is sent to destroy your peace. Gina, I tear up every time I hear you talk about your dad and what you said to him right before he went. So heart-touching, and your dad probably felt so at peace when he went, just by you saying that. That's where it is right there, Gina. I know that me being in recovery and me being there and me being a year clean was so pivotal in my dad leaving this world. That was such a pivotal thing. And it's God's perfect timing. Because like I said before, like if I had only been 6 months clean, let's say I'd only been off of drugs for 6 months at the time when my dad was in that hospital bed, I either wouldn't have been there because I wouldn't have had the job that I had, and I wouldn't have had the kind of money, and I wouldn't have had a car, or something like that, might not have happened to line up perfectly for me to be there. And then if I could have been there, I might not have been confident in my recovery yet. In fact, I know at 6 months clean, I wasn't confident in my recovery yet. And there's no way I could have stood before my dad and on his deathbed and say, if I would have said, Dad, I got this, you can go, I wouldn't have truly meant it. I'd have been so shaky and scared as I said it, because it was only 6 months in. That's freaking, who knows what's going to happen. So it's like God, it's like everything happened. It's so hard to talk about. It all happened right in God's time. You know what I mean? You see God's working, and in hindsight, it's always 2020. You look back and you go, wow, I can see God was working in that moment. But in the moment, you don't really see it all. But like, if I wouldn't have been in that position in my life and where I was when I went there, I might not have been able to be sincere. And in fact, I might have even broke down, cried, and been like, Dad, you can't leave. Please don't leave me, Dad. Please don't leave me. I need you now, And he wouldn't have needed to hear that. What he needed to hear was, I'm good. You can go if you need to go, Dad. And so I'm very thankful for God. I'm very thankful that he had me where I was, and that I was there for my dad, because my dad was always there for me. Like, even though him and my mom were divorced when I was really young, and my dad was an over-the-road trucker, he was gone for weeks on end, but he would always call. Every time he'd get to a payphone, he'd call. And every time it was his weekend to be there to take his boys, he was there on his weekend. He never canceled on us. And maybe occasionally he might have, but I don't remember those moments, There was times when I was a kid, my grandparents on the Jablonski side were passed on, and my grandparents on my mom's side, my mom's from upstate New York, and we live in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. That's the thousands of miles away, And I remember when I was a kid, they used to have Grandparents' Day at school, and they had Parents' Day, and then they had Grandparents' Day, and my grandparents were on my dad's side were gone, and my grandparents on my mom's side live in New York. So I was always the kid that didn't have a grandparent there, and Dad would show up. He would come home off the road and show up at school for me, so that I had somebody there, And when I graduated high school, he was there. He was there at my graduation. And every time I got arrested, he was there. And you can say what you want about it. I know, now looking back with my recovery brain, I look back at it and I realized that, yeah, he was enabling me a little. Like, by showing up every time I went to jail and bailing me out, putting money on my books, I see how that was enabling. But in the moment, he didn't know. We didn't even know what enabling was. None of us knew what enabling was. How was he supposed to know he was enabling me? He was just trying to love his son the best he could. But he was always there for me, And so I'm really thankful that in the end, when he needed me to be there, that I was freaking there, man. Like, that was huge. That was huge. And I miss him like crazy. Hard to believe it's going to be 4 years this year since he's been gone. But I will keep making these videos and keep sharing a message and keep using the things that he gave me to help other people, and to help more people have that realization, and more people to come into recovery, and then their parents can let go or do whatever they need to do, or your kids can live a happier life. It's not recovery, when it comes down to it, it's a selfish thing. We have to worry about us. We have to focus on us. But it's such an unselfish thing, because it's not really about you. You think it is. Sometimes you think this is about you living a better life, but it's really not. It's it's about your parents. It's about your family. It's about your friends. It's about your kids. It's about the next generation. That's what recovery is really about. It's not about you. This is about everybody else and making sure that you can be the best you so that you can support them better. That's what this is about. And it's freaking awesome. And I love it. And I love you guys. I'm so thankful to be in recovery. And I'm so thankful to be here speaking to you guys. And I hope you guys have the best friggin' day. It's Monday. We're going to go out there and we're going to win this week. We're going to freaking conquer stuff, man. It's the beginning of the week. You got a whole week ahead of you to get some goals achieved, man. So set some goals and upgrade something, man. Upgrade the hell out of your life. You can do this. Tell you what, set yourself 3 small goals for today and just keep doing that. And just keep achieving goals. Just keep doing it. All right, I thought it was going to be 5 years. Wait, did I misspeak? It is going to be 5 years. It'll be 5 years in just a few days. It'll be 5 years. Thanks for all the hugs, guys. I appreciate it. He didn't do what he did to enable you, says Angie. He did it because he loved his son. Amen, Angie. Amen. You know, he didn't, but that's what enabling is. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, enabling is disguised as loving your son and just loving people. You know, it's and it sucks to look back and see that kind of stuff. But here's the thing: is sometimes being in recovery and being a Christian and being stuff like this, you really have to be careful not to put guilt on yourself. There's a recovery guilt and Christian guilt are real freaking things, bro. Like, you start to feel like with Christianity, it's like you look back and you're like, oh, I feel bad because I wasn't perfect, you know, and don't beat yourself up because you weren't perfect. That's not what God wants. That's not any of that. And recovery, sometimes we look back now that you've got a clear freaking vision, man. We look back at some of the stuff we've done and it hurts so freaking bad. And in the moment, you didn't see it. You know, you didn't realize that you were freaking breaking your mother's heart when you did that one thing. Or you didn't see that you were just destroying your kids when you did that one thing. And then you come into recovery and you start to learn about, you know, low morals and self-defeating characteristics and all these things that we did in our active addiction that we all of a sudden look back and you go, oh, now I see it. Now I see that that was this and this was that and those were bad and this was bad. And a lot of times you start to fall into this shame, this guilt of like, I wish I wouldn't have done all that stuff. So many regrets, so many resentments can start showing up. And please, please, please know that that was the old you and that that person is dead and that you are now the new you. You have this amazing opportunity to become what you've always meant to be, what you've always wanted to be, what you were always supposed to be. You have this amazing opportunity, so don't let it pass by. Grab a hold of this opportunity and just keep going, man. Just keep going with recovery. Don't let the past hold you back. That was then, this is now. We don't look back to the past for nothing. You don't look back to the past for confidence. You look back to the past for what you did. You don't look back to the past for anything. Unless we want to know how to get the resin out of our bong, we don't look backwards, right? Unless I want to know how to clean out a meth pipe, I don't look backwards to old Maddie for nothing. I look forward to the new Maddie and to the Maddie that isn't even here yet, to the me of tomorrow, to the man I want to be someday. I look at him and I say, can he do it? You bet he can. The guy that I want to be one day, he can totally do this. He can totally win this situation. And right now, the thing I'm working on is getting Tommy Chong to come on my page. And, but you know, I chuckle at it, but I have a real chance right now to have Tommy Chong come on this page and talk with us about recovery, about cannabis, about God. I'm going to be talking to I'm still in the works of talking to some people to get Tommy Chong to come on here. Crazy. That kind of blows my mind a little bit. I'm excited about it. I really am. But when I think about it as when I start letting the old me come in, and I start letting those thoughts of like, I'm insignificant. Who am I? I'm just Maddie Jablonski, this guy from Wisconsin. The point of change, I only have 15,000 followers. I'm not like Chandelier or like Richie Weber or like these guys that got millions of followers. You know, who would want to, you know, am I even good enough to reach out to Tommy Chong? Is Tommy Chong even going to want to talk to me? I get that small syndrome a lot. I start feeling like I'm so insignificant and I can't do those things. But that's because I'm looking at the past. That's because I'm looking at what I have done. I'm looking at the 13 years of meth addiction. I'm looking at the little guy that, you know, used to get picked on. I'm looking at that guy. When I look the other way, when I look forward, when I look up, when I look at the guy that I'm going to be one day, and I say, can he get Tommy Chong to come on his page? You freaking bet he can. And you freaking bet he's gonna. And you freaking bet he did, man. Like the guy that I'm going to be one day tells the story about how he did interview Tommy Chong, you know? So I don't need to keep looking back at what I couldn't do in the past. I need to start looking forward at what I'm going to do in the future, you know? Whew. You guys got me sweating today. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. These pit stains are you guys' fault today. I'm blaming it on you. I'm gonna blame it all on Lynette. It's Lynette's fault. Everybody say hashtag Lynette's fault. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't. Hashtag Lynette's fault is trending on Facebook. Lynette, when is the recovery ribbon event, Maddie? Good question. Good question. Let me check. I don't know. I know it's in July. Let me see. Oh, wait. I'll just look in my events. It's going to be right there, I bet. Events. For you. No. Where is it? I know I'm supposed to, I gotta click and I'm going to it. Where is it? There it is. June 18th. I was wrong. I'd have been a whole month late. Saturday, June 18th. From noon to 3 p.m. in Merrill, Wisconsin at Inked Horizons that is the home of the Recovery Ribbon. If you guys haven't heard about the Recovery Ribbon, where have you been? Have you been under a rock? Get out from underneath rocks. This is the Recovery Ribbon, created by Diamond Betcher right here in Wisconsin. If you didn't know that, in Merrill, Wisconsin, this ribbon was designed and created. And every year he puts on an event at his tattoo shop. People come on down from all over the place. I mean, I'm going to be there. I don't know what else I need to say to get you to come. I'm going to be there. That's the big thing. Okay. I'm the headliner. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not the headliner, but through me, Richie Weber is going to be there. Higgy, I believe, is coming out. A lot of you guys have said that Mark Foster's going to be jumping on a plane and coming up to see me. Dana Moore said she's coming up to see me. Patrice Wasp, I believe, is coming up. Like, so many of you guys have said you're going to come up to Wisconsin to celebrate the Recovery Ribbon and meet me in person. And I'm so freaking blown away by the fact that people are going to travel states to come see me. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be speaking there. I'm going to be talking about the changes that we make in recovery. I'm going to be talking about when recovery gets hard and when we have to, step away from things that we love. I'm going to be talking about mental relapse. I got to really, Tina got a hold of me. She's Diamond's mom, and she asked me if I could talk about some of the things that I've done as far as like some of the times that I had to step away from the point of change and prioritizing your recovery over top of everything kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be beautiful. Lori, can you message me, Matt, with time and address? Make sure you send me a message because I'm sure I will forget to get back to you, that I will forget to send it. But send me a message and ask me for it, and I'll send you a link to the Recovery Ribbon event. I got it sitting there right on my phone right now. I could send it right now. Let's see. Let me click this. Share. Messenger. Here. Ta-da! Sent you a link. Look at that. Is your mom going, says Lori? Yes, my mother's going to be there. My mom's actually speaking there this year. All right, guys. It is, oh wow, we're already well over an hour. So thank you guys so much for keeping me here and keeping me talking. I really appreciate it. This was an awesome video. Thank you for coming by today. Hope you guys have a beautiful day. I'll see you tomorrow morning for Toothless Tuesday. Until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay clean.